It is middle grade March time, and I have some recommendations for you for prompt number 5, books from diverse authors. Hi, my name is Jonathan, and this is Mr. Pearson Talks Books, where we talk about books. Now, like I said, it is middle grade March time, and I want to give you some books that I would recommend to help you meet prompt number 5, books from diverse authors. Books with names in the title, books about siblings, books with books on the cover, historical fiction, and books by diverse authors. And so here is a list of books from authors that would fit into the diverse author category, or as the ladies who put this together, they call it BIPOC. But these are some books by those authors that I have read and greatly enjoyed. The first one, you probably know where I'm going with this, is Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. Amari and the Night Brothers is one of my absolute favorite books. It's about a girl named Amari who, after a really bad day at school, comes to find out that her missing brother is part of a magical society. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau, or Bureau of Supernatural Investigation, and she's being invited to come try out. So she tells her mom she's going to the special summer camp, and she goes, and she has to compete in a number of competitions to find out if she's going to be accepted, while at the same time trying to find her brother. This is a great series of books. Amari is a wonderful character. All of her friends are great. The twist at the end of the first one, it just comes out of nowhere and takes everybody by surprise. But then it builds on it in book number 2 and book number 3. The fourth book, Amari and the Metalwork Menace, comes out in February 2026. I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on a copy of that. Next up is it's a spooky book that I read, and it is part of the Tales from Cabin 23 series. And this book is called The Boo Hag Flex by Justina, Ireland. And this is the story of a little girl who she recently lost her mother to COVID. So she has to move in with her father and her grandmother down in Georgia in like a trailer park, or a situation like that. And while she's down there, she meets a neighbor girl who's convinced that there is a monster who is killing all of the old people. And so they start to investigate. And meanwhile, her father is kind of like in and out, and doesn't really want to have too much to do with her. But he does have a new girlfriend, and the new girlfriend is pretty wonderful. Until you find out something about her. That's all I'm going to say. It was a fun book. I do like spooky books. Might be a little early in the year to read it, but definitely check it out. The Boo Hag Flex by Justina, Ireland. It's part of an anthology series called Tales from Cabin 23. Next up is, hopefully this is no surprise to anybody, the Spirit Hunters series by Ellen O. First one being Spirit Hunters. That series is great. It's one of my favorites. It's all about this girl who moves from New York to Washington, D.C., and they move into a house, and things start to go bad. Her little brother is talking about an imaginary friend who doesn't want him to be around anybody else. So he starts having these terrible tantrums. And the girl has something that happened to her in the past, and she can't remember that whatever it was so traumatic, she can't remember what it is. And slowly that stuff comes to light, and she's able to use it to help rescue her brother from this malevolent entity. It is one of the scariest books I've ever read. I'll leave a link up here to my review of it. And the others are just as good. The second one, they go to a Bahamian island, and they run into an island of monsters. And then in the third one, her older sister goes to work at a cosmetic company, only to find out that the cosmetic company is being run by a witch who is stealing people's youth. Ellen O is one of my favorite writers. Her new book, The House Next Door, absolutely fantastic. Definitely check that one out as well. Next on the list is a murder mystery that I read earlier this year, and that's called Blood in the Water by Tracy Jackson. And this is the story of a girl who is invited to go to Martha's Vineyard um, to stay with some family friends because her father is in prison and he was arrested for some financial crimes. And so she is being sent to Martha's Vineyard so her mom can have a little bit of a break and try to figure out things that are going on with her dad. And she's still trying to prove her father's innocence. And while she gets there, she meets all of this different cast of characters that are on the island. And she sneaks out with the girl that she's staying with, and they go to a party, and there's a fight. And the next day, one of the boys who was involved in the fight is found dead. And so they're trying to figure out who it was that was responsible for his murder. They tried to make it look like he got eaten by a shark, but as more evidence comes out, it proves that he was in fact murdered. This one was so twisty and interwoven, and when you finally get to the end and figure out who is responsible for the crime, it's just going to blow your mind. It's one of the best books that I've read so far this year. If you like mysteries and you like that type of thing, definitely give this one a try. Blood in the Water by Tracy Jackson. A book by Erin Entrada Kelly is called The Last Resort. And this is another spooky book. And it is the story of a girl, and she's traveling across the country with her family because her grandfather just died. And so they have to go take care of his final affairs, particularly related to the hotel that he owned. And while they're there, they're almost involved in a car accident. And as a result of that, the girl in the story, she can now see ghosts. And when she gets to her grandfather's hotel, she comes to find out that her grandfather didn't necessarily die of natural causes, and he wants her to solve the mystery and find out who is responsible for his death. There's some other ghosts and there's some other scary elements involved in there, but it was a really fun story to read. There is a second one called The Claiming that was written by Jasmine Warga, but I have not had a chance to read that one yet. But definitely check out The Last Resort by Erin Entrada Kelly. Finally on my list, and this is the absolute best book that I have read so far this year, and that's called The Treasure of Ocean Parkway, and it is by Sarvenaz Tash. And this is the story of two young people who live in an apartment building in New York, and they have a podcast where they investigate mysteries. And one day their neighbor Thea comes to them and says, "Hey, I found this journal that belonged to my grandfather, and he's talking about a treasure." And so they go on a treasure hunt in the building and find all of these little clues and notes and things that were left by her grandfather. Now, the thing with her grandfather is he is in an advanced stage of dementia, and so while he's there physically, mentally he's not always there. And there is some kind of bad blood between Thea's dad and her grandfather, and so he doesn't really want to help, and so she's trying to solve this mystery with the help of her two friends as they make this podcast. There are moments in here that are so beautiful. It was moments where there are times of lucidity for the grandfather, where he is able to remember his grandchildren and remember his son. And they are oh so brief, but when they come through, they are absolutely beautiful. Now, in full transparency, my mother passed away a few years ago, and she had dementia in the later days of her life. And so having walked through that, where sometimes she would remember me and sometimes she wouldn't, and those moments of lucidity where you never knew which version of it you were going to get, the author of this book handled that so well that as these moments were coming through, like I was crying. And that's why I say this is the absolute best book I have read so far this year. Now, granted, it's still early in the year, but definitely check out The Treasure of Ocean Parkway. Now, I thought this was the first in the series. There's actually one that came before it called The Queen of Ocean Parkway, and that is next up on my list to read. I have it on audiobook, and I'm going to be listening to it this week as I travel to and from school. So there you are. Those are the books that I would recommend for the diverse author reading prompt. So what is a book by a diverse author or a BIPOC author that you would recommend? Definitely leave those titles down in the comments. I'm always looking for new books to read, and I know people who read the comments are looking for books as well. And if you'd like to see my recommendations for books that meet prompt number 4, the historical fiction genre, click on the video that's going to pop up here soon. If you haven't done so, go ahead and subscribe. That definitely helps me to stay encouraged to make these videos. And as always, my name is Jonathan. This is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. We'll see you next time.